live.
Yep. Oh wait, the OBS is up.
It is?
Yeah, you can see the whole thing.
Oh, that's Triads. Just what the heck is a triad? The word tri just means a grouping of three. I'm Kurt Scheller, and my daughter, Kelly Thompson, from Frets and learningukulele.com. Today we're going to go over triads. Just what is a triad?
Wait, is the song still on?
No, the song's not that. Okay, ooh, turn it off. Now, in the background was one of my original songs from my How About More Uke CD called Summer's Dawn. And it was actually started out as an exercise in triads. The first part of the song was simply this. Mainly triads, which we'll be going over. Now, triads, a grouping of three notes. In music, that's what it is, a grouping of three notes. And traditional triads are major, minor, diminished, and augmented. So, also contemporary triads would be another workshop. So, traditional triads. A triad is a three-note chord, and it's based on an interval of a third. So what's an interval? There's Kelly peeking through the question sign. Just what is an interval? We're going to find out. Most chords in Western music, which we listen to, are based on an interval of a third. Now, an interval has two components, a name and a distance. So in music, the name's important, and distance, we know that as an interval is a distance, how you measure the distance in something. These are time or, right? Now here the distance is based off of scales. Now the easiest way to determine the interval between two notes is to count the lines and spaces of the music staff. You can even count them and not know what the notes are, but that's how we can come up the surefire way of getting the interval. So in this example here, I have C and G, which are actually two of the notes in a C major triad. And if we count the lines and spaces, we'll see that G is a fifth away from C. So that is the distance part of the interval. And now intervals also have a name, but we actually don't really need that right here. Now we can also get the interval from a scale. If we took the C major scale, I think we covered that before somewhere. It's good to know the C major scale on your instrument. Now piano players have it easy, which we'll see in a second. So if we took the C major scale and just laid the notes out, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and we numbered them consecutively, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and it can go on up to 13 if we're dealing with chords. So we see the second note is the second note in the scale. So it's 2. Second, the interval is a second. Third note, the interval is a third. Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, so on. Now, piano, let's write the right one. Piano, we can get the same thing. We can count the keys, the white keys. C major scale is the white keys of the piano. So now you know the C major scale on the piano. They have it a little bit easier than the ukulele because it's color-coded, black and white. So we can really easily see when, that's funny when I was showing up over there. Okay. We can easily see when a natural note versus a sharp or flat note. So again, here we see E is the third note of the scale. So it's a third away from C. Now, if we took that C major scale and placed the notes around a circle in thirds, we'll get the distance of an interval in thirds. C to E is a third, E to G is a third, G to B is a third, B to D is a third, so on and so forth. This actually helps us with one of the alternative ways of spelling chords down the road. We'll learn that a C major triad is C, E, G. So I would actually memorize. This is a good little secret decoder ring in music to memorize. All right. C,
Oh,
E,
sorry.
G. So intervals, a distance, a name. Now the name part is in music of those 4 triads that we have: major, minor. I'm going to jump back to the traditional triads a second. So the traditional triads are major, minor, diminished, augmented. They are also the name part of intervals. So we will find later on, you would find out that the distance from C to E is what we call a major third. The distance from E to G is what we call a minor third. And interval name could also be diminished or augmented. That's a whole nother separate subject, but there is actually a lesson online for intervals.
Marion said no audio.
No audio
Her
again?
end. No, her.
Oh man, geez. Make us go nuts here.
Our sound engineers have
Wow, so
trouble.
let's jump to our first real triad here. We know you've been playing triads. When you learned your first ukulele chord, C, you were playing a triad. Now yeah, tri is 3 notes, but if you think about it and you learn the names of the notes a little bit, or even sound-wise, you can hear a couple of the notes sound the same. So you actually doubled the C note. So it's still just 3 notes, C, E, and G, a triad. Right? So here's our first triad. And we're going to take a very familiar triad that we already know. And we sort of can see this shape and recognize it as somebody looking at us with a big red mouth. What the heck? No. This is
I was like, what are you talking about? The chord chart.
Yeah, the chord image. We recognize that as a G. This is a G major chord, a G major triad. Now, major chords and major triads are the most common chord that we create. Now, you got to move this up 1 fret per G.
I was going to say, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
Notice this has no name on it, right?
Ah.
Yes. And if we went back to that C major scale and we wanted to identify these notes as if it was a C chord, we would see that the root is C, E is the 3rd, and G is the 5th from a major scale. That's the best way to get the names of the chords. Or we took that circle, C, E, G, B, D, F, A, C, and C, E, and G, or the root 3rd and 5th of a C major. Now, so if we took this triad here, here's how I identify it and organize it for myself. It's a major triad with the root, or root, whatever you say, what part of the country you're from, root on string 2. So this is a root on string 2. Now we're going to do the triads today. We can finger pick them or strum them with your thumb, but don't hit string 6. A 6. That's a guitar string. Yeah, don't hit string 6. It's not there. Or 5.
The wrong instrument. Yeah.
Because these apply to any stringed instrument. Same shape as the D chord on the guitar, G chord on the ukulele. So I would finger pick it. We want to move these around the neck. If I move it up 1 fret, 2 frets, clearly it's not G anymore. It's still a major triad. But if I can identify that note on string 2, I know the name of this chord. So here's a quick, later on we do frets too. Fret 5 is A. So if we move this up here, that's A. Major triad. So that's our first major triad. Now it has 3 notes. So there's going to be 3 inversions of what we call different voicings or arrangements of the notes along any adjacent 3 strings. So fret 1, this is G flat or F sharp. Fret 2, it is G. Now I actually will identify these chords, the fret that I'm on, by the root. So I would call this fret 3. Because there's roots on string 2, fret 3 for G. Right? G major triad. You can move it around the neck. Right? Next triad. The root is on string 1. So now this one you can bar, or you can do 1, 2 with a 3. I have students that will do that fingering. Fingering, there's a couple firm principles behind fingering. You try to play right behind the frets if possible. It's the easiest place to play it. And you can use any finger you want as long as it's yours. Right? But so this, sometimes people can't bar right away. So they'll do 1 and 2, then 3rd finger here, 2 and 3 or pinky here, 1, 2, strings 1 and 2 a bar, then 2nd finger, right? So these are like chord fingers. So this is the root on string 1. If we put our third finger here on string 4, we might recognize this as our B flat movable form. But again, let's just play strings 3, 2, and 1. You can finger pick it, thumb, index, middle. Struck it with the thumb. The reason I'm doing this is I've eliminated strumming accuracy. I'm not going to strum it, so I don't have to worry about hitting string 4. A good practice is to just switch between the two that you know. Because the hardest part of playing the instrument is the actual physical part of it. So that's 2 of the 3 triads. Now, the third triad. I jump back to a previous slide. On the next slide, we're trying to get the audio working on it. There it is. Now we have audio. All right, so rewind. This is the first.
Oh,
we have
delay.
This is the first triad that has the arrangement of the notes in order, what we would call root voicing, root, third, fifth. In music sense, this is a root voicing, root inversion. Okay. It's a little trick question I do later on this. So major triads. So now we have 3 major triads. We'll review here, just show you. Here's the first one we did, the familiar G shape. The second one, the root is on string 1. It's the upper 3 strings of a B flat triad. Now we have the third one. Now with audio. This would be like a familiar D chord and just playing the thin 3 strings. All these chords without the open string are movable up and down the neck. Whatever the name of that note is, or you have a chart, look it up on a chart. Alright, so these are 3 movable triads. Alright, now how we can use these triads and how they are so powerful is they can be used as chords and as melodic devices. Now the best way to learn this when you're transposing chords, look for that down there.
I know.
Is
Need coffee.
that root on particular strings. So if we took the first one, which was the familiar G chord shape, and we moved it up so that our third finger's on string 2 is at fret 5, we now know fret 5 is C, F, A, D. Fret 7 is G, B, D, G, D, G, B, E, D, G, B, E, D, G, B, D, G, B, C flat. So that's a B chord here. B triad, A triad, G. if you go off the fingerboard, this is actually the F. So the G chord is actually based off of the open position F, F sharp G, A, B flat, B, right? D, D sharp or E flat, right? So the notes of the neck. It's easy to learn. Go download my Learning the Ukulele Fingerboard book. Is a step-by-step key fret way of building on these. Just by learning really 5 frets, and you really will get the whole fingerboard. All right, so we quickly go through what the 3 triads are. We'll go back, refine them. There they're at. Right, there's the 3 triads. You want to master them? Look at them. Identify that root first. Then later on, you will actually identify where the 3rd is, and they will actually have a relationship. The root to the 5th, root to the 3rd. Root, 5th, 3rd, root, 3rd, root, 5th, root, 5th, 3rd, root, right? You'll find where they're at. All right, now, using them. That's the biggest part. How we're going to use these. We do know that we can use them accompaniment, strumming, like the open positions, C, F, and G. They're actually triads. So if I do C here, here's a C note here. That take the root on string 1 triad. The F, well, I could do the open F. C, G. Or I could do the C here. Here's an F. C, G. Now when I did these here, this is what we would call voice leading. Because some chords, they will share notes, like C, E, G, F, F, A, C, they share the F. A different fingering, and then G. But they can be used for melodies. Kumbaya, my coro, bum bum bum. Melodies are really strong. Come and sit as Red River Valley.
Last week's workshop.
Yeah, we did a lot. Yeah, triads are used a lot in very basic songs. Improvising. If you're here for the blues workshop, we talked a little bit about using these triad shapes to solo with. All right. Which brings up this issue. So it's accompaniment, background chords. Somebody could be strumming C, F, C, G. Now another way to practice transposing these is to take each chord and just move the same shape up and down the neck. All right. Now you do run out of room on concerts, even tenors. So you can't just actually do every one of them up and down the neck efficiently. Fingering. Yep. So here's a G triad. Chords, again, we could finger this with a bar and 1, a bar and 3, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3. Lots of different fingering. It's like Twister sometimes, just getting your fingers on there. Again, keeping in mind that you want to stay right behind the frets. Right? That's the easiest place to play the notes. It'll help when you do songs. That sat right there, and I use the chord fingering. That's the C chord. Right? Parts of them. Right now, so fingering. Is that
The wrong thing.
Yeah. Fingering. So you can do a chord fingering, or you can do single note fingering. Now the single note fingering is each finger can take care of their own fret in a particular 4 fret span that you're in. So if I'm here with G, I have 1, 2, 1. I'll do it like that. Right, so instead of this, stretching. So You can actually tell when a player sometimes is thinking more of the single note execution of a chord than the chord. Because single note fingering often has a different, this one doesn't, fingering than the chord. I'll try to get rid of that staccato sound here. So I do the chord fingering. The G, C has the same fingering as the chord. Lots of different fingerings. Explore them all. Alright, fingering. Now we can add and expand these triads to notes that are available to us, especially if we're doing the scale fingering. So here's the G. I'm going to do it at G. I'm going to fret 2. So there. So now I go back to spelling of the chord. You can look it up or figure out the notes. It'll fit that circle, G, B, D. So I have a G, B, D. Well, here's another D. Here you can play at the racetrack. Or you can use Mighty Mouse. Kumbaya, my Koro. Now I have a low G, so I can hit the low B. If you do it on a high tuning, you have a higher low. Yeah. Now I'm going to switch views with Kelly for a second. Just to point out one thing, which is pretty interesting. Oops, lost our charger. When we go back to the triads.
No, those are my headphones attached to my head.
All right, so let's go back to this. Move it up to G. String 4 and 1 are always the same notes when you double one of the notes. So here's the C. So that means this voicing is the same as this. This voicing, the same. So although this voicing. So chord-wise, it doesn't matter when you add it. You actually just only double the note and played it in unison on a high G. So sometimes that higher note on a lower string sort of messes with our ear's traditional thinking it's going to be lower because of other instruments. All right, so back to my koala. So you can ultimately, when you're doing single notes, if you have a low G, it's easy to, and it sounds sort of linear, add any note that's in the chord to a lower string 4. High G. Now here's the C. I could stretch and get the E up here. Right? The F. Really can't. The F is way up here, so it might be hard to get. The C is here. That's a little challenging to get. Right? So some of them, not all of them, you can get. So that was the arpeggio example.
You need the camera more?
Right? That's right. Yeah, maybe. So now,
there we go.
So let's just do this a little briefly here because we are going to hit minors also. I would take a traditional simple chord progression that you already know. C, F, C, G. Right? That was a little B early there, but so I'll just sort of use those chords to outline those notes. Now, hitting all 3 notes of the chord, you're guaranteed to sound good. So you can add one more note. I have a whole series of lessons online. This is a great way to jump into improvising, creating your own melodies. So there's 2 kinds of melodies. One is it's a previously composed melody, you know, it comes. Then there's one that you're going to improvise your own melody. So it's instantaneous composition. Sometimes more combustion, but composition usually. So add one note. Now we're doing the key of C, so if you add a note that is a natural letter, it's pretty much guaranteed to sound pretty good. So here's my G, and I'll add A.
Laura says, great lesson. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, yep. So on the C, start on my E, hit G, add A, and then hit the C. So I call this triad plus one. There's actually like 24 different ways to play that triad plus one. Varying the rhythm and everything, you just get a lot of instant, really good sounding stuff that will create your little melodies for improvising. So here's G. Looking at the screen, make sure it's in view. G, G, A, B, C. Now, one thing I definitely personally found out with these chords is, like if I asked a beginner, somebody just starting out with ukulele to learn a couple chords, play me a C chord, they really only have one choice. They'll play this. Now somebody that maybe learned the B flat movable form and now they can move it up the neck.
Tony's cool. Tony's always doing that.
Yep. So
I think he was just
now you have two choices. Somebody says play a C chord, you have to make an instantaneous decision of which one you're going to play. Now you're going to have more. Each triad, there's 3 different voicings for it. Here's C, here's the next C, then the final one. Then if I go higher, see, it'll run out of room. It gets really, really hard to play up here. So. Now, one thing that'll happen also is you have to really think of the chord, and your fingers, not only will they remember the individual chords of that run, they'll remember exactly what they had to do to go from one to another. Like I found at times you'll find that you'll go to this, you'll play a chord, and we'll play C, and you're moving up to the next C or something, and you go like, oh, what was it? I forget it. And you look down and your fingers are in it. So they can remember it. But then by that same token, if you're going to move to a different chord, like say F, you don't think about it, the fingers might be wanting to play the previous chord you did. So you really have to think of these chords when you're moving them. Like C, C, F. These do take months and months to master, to learn where all these are. So you would take a simple progression. C, F, C, G. Then say, okay, well, that's pretty cool. I'm going to move up to this C. F, C, G. Now, this would be a good graphic I'll put up here later on. Everybody nowadays, a lot of people, artists, will use what they call these looper pedals. They'll play something, they'll hit a button on their foot pedal, then that'll play back without them playing. So then they could jump to something else, like the triad. Yep. So you want to be your own looper pedal, your internal looper pedal. I'm going to play C, F, and G. C, F, C, G. So C, I'm thinking C, F, C. So I can phone it in. It's looping now. You can sing, look around. Now I want to switch to a different position and play C, F, and G. I got to reset the loop, otherwise I have no idea what my fingers will do. I'm thinking F, C to G. I'm going to go back to the other loop, but think a little bit. C, go to this C. I gotta think. Otherwise, my fingers will do that. C, F, G. C, C, F, F, C, C, G. You know, practice those moves. C, C, F, F. This is the practice part, you know, at home. Away from the band situation or jamming with other people. So C, F, C, G. Always think Paul Simon's song, Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard.
That's what I was hearing that. I couldn't think of what it was.
Right.
Margarita.
You do nice montunos. How to play it, but I used to play. You can do these. They're called arpeggios when you do them in these broken chord order. Practice just a fingering. On the video, because it's certain frames a second, like maybe 30, I think I'm doing 30 frames a second here. You can get it so fast, it looks like you're really fast. You want to get it so fast that you can't see your switch. Alright, but I would practice those. Another way to practice these is, music likes to move in 3s and 2s, so I'll just place a chord here somewhere, go up 3, down 2, up 3, 2, 2.
That's so easy, but it looks so fancy.
It is fancy. I'm letting out my secrets.
Everyone's gonna be like, gosh, all those years, you can't really play. You just
do cool tricks like this arpeggio, G, B, D. Here's C. Find every C. Now the fingering changes. This is where it's difficult on the instrument. C. Went too far. So now, I'll take it as simple progressions. Change them to lots of different keys. Let me see what I have here. I won't show yet. Yep, 1, 4, 5. That's a really good one. So I'm doing it like here. This is called voice leading because C is C, E, G, F is F, A, C. They share the C. C, E, G to G, B, D. There's a G. Share the G. And ultimately, one fingering over another, it has to be, just the other day I saw this Pinky G.
Pinky G.
Yeah, it's in a yellow book. Jim Beloff talks about Pinky G and in his workshops and stuff. And there was an article about it on the ukulele site, you know, the magazine, advocating Pinky G like this to go to G7 really fast.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
But your fingering on your hand, the fingering, your dominant fingers are fingers 1 and 2. They're strong, powerful fingers. Like you can snap your fingers with them. Not 1, maybe 3 and 2. You can. Pinky, no way. Right? They're dominant fingers. Finger 3 a little bit. Right? 1 and 2. 2 is the longest. Pinky, little wimpy finger. So you're going to have more stability using these 3 fingers than you are using these 3 fingers. So I've been playing for years. This is always a better fingering for G. It has to be so fast. It has to be super fast.
Just like myth busted debunk.
I'm sorry.
You should do myth busted.
Now if I was going to do something like this, good reason. But if I was just going to do maybe one beat each,
Yeah, it doesn't.
right, that's rarely that I would do that.
You should do a Mythbusters series.
Yeah,
On
Mythbuster.
ukulele.
Yeah. Dominant fingers can do the dominant work. Yeah, that's something simple, right?
And you're not like
Right behind
you're not
the frets.
moving on a fret. It's not
Yeah. What we call a concept I learned through my studies is quiet hands. It doesn't. You don't want it to look like you're doing a lot, right? You don't want to like. If I'm going to go from this C to this G, actually do it without strumming or plucking it. Just take C, press it, hold it for 20, 30 seconds to get the muscle memory kicking in, and then slowly move. Now notice how my fingers, like I have to get to this fingering here. So none of my fingers are in the right fret. None of them are really even on the right strings. So this second finger has to get to here. The shortest route would be like this diagonal. From C, so I'm going to slide, it's diagonally moving over, right? So I'm not doing this one at a time. I'm sliding right across the strings too, really close. I'm actually still touching the strings. So here's my C, F, C, G. C, F,
We don't have to
C,
do
G.
Gymnastics flips between.
Yeah, you don't. For sure. There's always a big giant debate. Luckily we don't have to worry about it on ukulele about using flat picks. They sound really good on single notes. You know, no difference between plucking with your nail or a flat pick for single notes. Strumming wise, they sound really harsh. So there's always a debate about picking technique on the instruments, and there's a really efficient way to do picking. I think I have a brief lesson online for that. But Roy Clark, famous guitarist, he even said he knew his picking was very inefficient. But when he did it for TV and stuff, it looked pretty efficient. It looked really cool for the audience. The efficient picking doesn't look cool at all. So efficient fingering doesn't look cool.
Like you're not moving. Like
yeah, it's like, well, he's not doing anything. Here, I'll play the beginning of Summer's Dawn. There's a tab of it online. So I'm doing like C, B minor, E minor, D, G. It actually started out as an exercise of a harmonized chord scale, just playing a scale in triads. So it's not this. Yeah, no flying fingers. Keep it quiet. Keep it quiet. You want all the effort to go into getting the music out. Then also think of like which fingers, what they had to do. Analyze them. Look at them. Coming up with efficiencies. Now I'm going to go up from here, this G, and I want to play C. If I just move it, nothing has to move. But say I want to go up to E chord. My fingers is getting to E before I ever get there. Back to A. Now, what I did there is this is an E. But as soon as I know the shape for the A I want to go to is this. So I quickly get my third finger on string 2 to guide me down there. Get to the chord shapes quickly. I actually do a lot of these without plucking them. Yeah, no noise. You do it while you watch TV. I have a student, she has one of those silent Risa ukulele she travels with. It's a solid body. The tuning pegs are up here. It's really short. It's like about the length of here. It's only the length of the actual scale length from the nut to here, the way they have it set up. The tuners are sort of in here. And so it's very quiet. You're the only one who can hear it. It's like a solid body ukulele, but you can't hear it. So it's good for practicing. Luckily, ukuleles are always out. Right now, so we did majors. That is one of the most common chord type that we'll ever run across. Now, for minors, I could say this to you, and we'd be done with the workshop and the lesson. Take every one of your major triads and lower the third 1 fret. There you go, your minor. See ya. Not that simple, though. Usually, we still need shapes for these. Major and minors, you can get them by the shape. So, I'm going to try to jump back and forth. So there's the minor root on 1, all right? See that minor? Here's the major root on 1. Notice the difference? One thing is I didn't circle the root because we know where that's at now, right? But I'll go back to the major. Root on string 1. One note moved, that's it. Right? Only one note moved. The third of the chord moved. Notice it says flat third, 5, root.
You need to get a quieter mouse.
Can you hear the mouse?
It's really loud, yeah.
Yeah, silent mouse. I need one of them fancy broadcasting decks they do.
Oh gosh.
Right? So the minor chord, the only difference between a minor and a major is, if we harken way back to where I mentioned that, use C major as an example, C, E, G. C to E is a major third, E to G is a minor third. C minor, C to E flat is a minor third, E flat to G is a major third. So our majors and minor chords, they both have major and minor intervals in them. Why do they sound different? I have no idea. It's the root, the relationship to the roots, and that third. If you notice, the root and the fifth does not change. So they're called the power tones. That's where we get the name power 5 chords, because they are really technically not a chord. Well, there's the second one. Let's jump to this one then. Right? One note moves, string 1. Right? Here's the third minor. This is right in order. Root, flat, third, fifth. Here's the major version. String 2, the third moved. Right? So now you got 6 shapes in your head. You should be thoroughly confused of which one is which. But again, view these as, here's C minor. It's an open position chord too if we add G. Right? Again, if this case here, if you play this, and with the open string on a high G, this G and a high G are the same note. So string 4 is the same as string 1. So you're doing the 2 of the notes unison on a high G, and one of the notes is an octave lower on low G. So this is a C minor, low G. Right? And Kelly would have a high G. She's playing high G. So minor. Dark sounding chords, very ominous. So A minor, the West Virginia coal mine chord, A minor. So now when I teach these, sometimes we'll learn them in one key first, like C. We'd take the C major triad and learn that this is C, G, and E. And we say lower E to third, E flat. So there's my minor. All right. We'll jump back to this one. That is this one. Play G major. Take the B on string 1 and lower 1 fret. With this fingering, you can't do it. Right? So you have to change places. And when you first do this, you will mess up the chord. So when I did this, I says, okay, I got to keep this note. Right, and lower string 1. There you go. Now I can put it back. So I only want to move one note. If you have the shape in the image, you can write letters on, write the letters in there of the chord. You can write the fingering underneath. So this is G minor. We know this one already. G minor.
Wait, what'd you say? You'll mess up what?
When you refinger chords, you'll tend to maybe lose the other notes, mess up the other notes. Like in case you want to move just one note 1 fret lower, you'll mess up the other notes by moving them because you're not thinking about them. You're not thinking about, I have to keep this note, these 2 notes here, and get this one. So I actually took my other hand on some of these and say I'm doing this here on A, and I want to get this one here. So I would use my other hand to point to the ones I don't want to lose. And it helps sometimes. Or you write them out, write them out, write them out. All right? So there's 3 minors.
Or just ask your...
Yeah. If
Hey,
your
Kurt,
dad's a
what do I
professional
do?
musician, just say, what's this? It's whatever you want it to be. Now, if you ask me what this chord is, I'll say, if you're doing an open position chord, I'll give you the name that I think you were thinking. If you're playing a chord shape anywhere else, I'll have to ask, what's the root? What's the context? Because chords can have multiple names.
Where you're coming from, yeah.
Yeah. So here you go, running through the minors. At fret 1, this is B flat minor because that note is B flat. G minor. Fret 3 on string 2 is G. E flat minor or D sharp minor. I was looking up the other day, I was wondering why would you call it, would you ever call this a D sharp minor? And I found out by looking at the 15 major keys, there is no D sharp minor in any of them. Because if there was a oh, there is a D sharp minor. Sorry, I was thinking of something else then. Darn. The key of C sharp has D sharp minor. So, but it's not very common. E flat's a lot more common. Some names are more common than others. Move it up to fret 4, E minor. Pink Panther starts with E minor. E minor. Ba-da, 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 C7. Ba-doodly-doodly, minor. F7. All right, that's the 4 chords. I'm back. All right, now I would do this. Write these down. Oh, here you go. Wait a second. I want to see if we can get this. Oh, there you go. Ready? This is good. Here is I collected all the lessons for triads into a series of traditional and contemporary triads. Make sure this sees. I want to make sure you're seeing what I see. So, traditional and contemporary triads. The introduction, I believe, just talks about the possible sets of 3 and 4 strings that there is. There is a chart here for, let's go to it. We're doing this winging it on the fly. All right, watch this. This is cool. There you go. Major triads. If you download this, it might be free, it might not. I don't know. Yep, this is a gold access level part of the lesson. Now, as you can see, this is not easy, simple stuff to do. But there's the open position chords. Yeah, you have to pay for it.
The year?
Yeah, annual membership or sign up for lessons and you get it for free. Now, you can view it online in a really small form. Where's it at? Yeah. Here's the big form. If you're a gold member, you get lots of access. Lots of good stuff there. Oh, there you go. We'll go there. But there's the 3 major shapes. All right. Nice chart. Major and minor. Page 2 is minor, so it's all on one page. This is what we're going over today. Major, minor. Right?
LearningUkulele.com.
Then, because as I found in my professional career, air quotes went off in my head. Professional, as a teacher especially, is that a lot of people don't want to do the work. It's like, what?
You do. You teach at a school now, so private school, so you're technically professional.
Yeah, right. So here's the 3 major triads. Now, here's how I organize these for teaching. You want to explore all of them. Let me zoom in. Boy, you gotta love the internet, huh? Can you imagine doing this years ago when you first started out? All right, see it. So, C, F.
That'd be bigger. There's so much black space.
Yeah, hold on. Backseat driver. Hold on, we'll go like this. Yes, I will. Watch. As a member, you can do the PDF only view. And there it's bigger. I can zoom in.
There we go.
All right, let me scroll down. So there's the 3 triads. All right, and actually, same triad. I don't see my mouse. All right, so C, F, C, G. C, F, C, G. So the root's on string 1 for the first one. That allows you to catalog the chord and bring it back to instant recall. The instant part is what takes forever. F. Now from C to F, C stayed the same, and then to G. And then it gives you the, can't really highlight it, the solutions for the other 3 voicings. All right? Man, every time I look at this website, I think, man, this is like This is some good stuff.
I wonder who made this.
Yeah, God, man, I gotta meet that guy.
Send him a thank you note.
Yeah, right. Man, I stole a lot of stuff from him. Yeah, this takes a lot of work. The software, expensive, but sure. We're back. Now I'll do this. When you want to introduce the minors, let's do C. And we're going to play A minor. Now I'm going to give you a little tip. And this is where the learning the notes of the neck is just like, it's so helpful. C chord is C, E, G. Visualize it. It's like written in the sky, C, E, G. It's fading, A minor, A, C, E. They share notes. The only note difference between a C chord and an A minor is G versus A. So G moves up to A and you have minor. Right? And then I want to go to F. F, A, C, A, C, E. I move my E to F. So I'm doing C, A minor, F, G. So here's C, A minor, F, then G.
Oh,
now,
whoops, I knew that was wrong. I knew it sounded wrong.
F and G do not share any notes. Oh, look, we can do our test scene.
That always amazes me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but your ear is like telling you, nope, that's wrong, Kelly.
Yeah, our ear just like doesn't. Cool. There's Kelly. Look, hey, Kelly.
I'm here.
Where you been hiding
A hidden
behind?
voice.
You've been hiding behind graphics.
I've been sleeping behind the graphics.
Yeah. So C, C, E, G, A minor, A, C, E, F, F, A, C, a G chord. Two chords of the same type, major, minor. Even majors and minors. If they're a whole step apart, the roots, like the next letter, F to G, they're not going to share any notes. F and G, F, A, C, G, G, B, D. So here's trick question number one. I'm going to move. I have two choices. I can move this up to G here, just transpose it, move the same shape 2 frets higher, or I can move to this G. Which one is closest? Musically, they're both the same distance. This F to this G, each note moved a whole step, 2 steps. So 3 times 2 is 6. I need TJ, he'd know a different way.
If you missed the earlier workshop, my
wait
son,
till Wednesday, you're in for a treat. Hopefully he'll do it.
I don't know if he will. His math was very...
Yeah, it was very good. It was funny.
It was twisted.
In the meantime, just look up Pa Kettle Does Math on YouTube.
He got it.
Yeah. So now this F, here's F, I'm going to this G. It looks a lot closer, right? But in reality, this note moved 1 step. This A moved 2 steps. This F moved 3, so it still adds up to 6. So musically, the only difference is one ascended parallel to itself, and the other one moved lower, sort of similar. One interval went further than the other, but the same distance. So the choice is musical. Do I want to start over here? Like, if I go up to this G, I might go to this C. C, A minor. Notice the fingering changed. C, A minor, F, G. Everybody's brain should be hurting by now. All right, there's a lot there. So this is weeks and weeks and months of work. Scrolling line, look at that. It says subscribe, like, give us a thumbs up.
Oh,
hit the notification button, bell.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this lesson,
Triads.
share with your friends.
Again, I'm a big fan of the iReal Pro or any of these backing track things. Play like a C. Have somebody, if you have somebody at your house can play the chords for you. A minor, F, G, or G7, doesn't matter. C, A minor. I'm going to go to triads. Now keep going. Whoa. That was
mess
all. I
up.
know, yeah. I was trying to think of
Wasn't
other
me.
stuff. It's hard to multitask when you're sort of playing and doing the workshop and jamming. But if somebody's playing the chords for you, you can. One thing I definitely found out, you got to think of these chords. Just for the brief second right before you play it, verify that it at least has the root in there somewhere. Then you have a 2/3 chance of playing the right chord. You know, major and minors are what you do the most of, so you might get the right type. But if you can verify all the notes quickly, you'll be safer. And this is one thing that happens as you learn more intermediate and advanced material on the ukulele and play more and more, is that your musical thinking gets faster. It becomes more second nature and a subconscious activity. You don't have to consciously think about what you're going to do next. You should though, but
Marion said she likes your scrolling text.
you do? That's nice, yeah.
Not
That's
me.
pretty cool.
Marion. Yeah.
Yeah, that's different. That's just, as I learn new stuff with these programs, I'll stick them in there. So quick review then, we got a couple seconds. Intervals, the distance between two notes. Learning to read music at a rudimentary level is actually not that bad. There's two levels of reading music. One is, it's your job, they put music in front of you, the conductor counts it off, you're getting paid, you have to play it as accurately as possible. The second type of reading is just like casual reading, like reading a magazine, you know. You can go through it however you want. You can do it slow. You don't have to read it in real time. You can learn to measure at a time. Start simple. And again, geez, I have everything on my website. There's it's funny. I'm impressed myself sometimes. But I did it all to learn different stuff. So there's a book up there, Reading Music on Ukulele, a primer. Reading in the open position. Go through that. It really focuses on rhythm and just reading in the open position. Deals with low G also, but when you get through that, you'll be able to read music at a rudimentary level. All right. So intervals, name and distance. Again, there's lessons online for determining, because intervals can be simple intervals, they call it, compound intervals, they can be inverted. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you can do with them. Understanding them. You can get your intervals from the scale. You get your chord spelling from the scale. So a C chord is C, E, G. C minor, I flat the third, C, E flat, G. All right. Piano players, I teach beginner pianos. We learn a major chord on the piano. We start on C, count each key up 4, not including the one you're on. You play that note, in this case C and E. Then you count up 3. You get C, E, and G. There's your major triad. Do minor, lower that little note, the middle note E, and you have E flat. Now here's a trick question. Ready? I'm going to pull this one on you guys. First I'm going to show the 2 voicings. Here's the first one. All right, here is the next one. All right, now I'm going to play G here. And I'm going to play G here. Now remember, trick question, how many notes did I move? The answer is 1. You might say, what? Wait a second. 1? Yes, all I did was this. This B moved up to D. That's the note that moved. This G simply moved to another string, the exact same note. Right, so these notes moved from here to here. And this note moved up an octave. So I took the lower note of the chord and raised it an octave. That's how you do it on piano. Here, though, raise this lower note an octave. Oh, geez, I had 2 notes on the same string.
I thought we lost audio, but my cell phone was like buffering.
Buffering. Yeah, we did better with audio on this one.
We did very good.
We didn't lose it at all on the last one.
No, the last one was when we went to the iReal Pro, we lost it.
Yeah, we had to figure that one out. But. So, good. All right, you get to use the whole ukulele. You bought it, right? Most people play up here. Now, in the case of the C, F, C, and G, you can actually, if the root of the key is available as a low note, you can use it as a pedal tone. And I'll demonstrate this in a second. Or the fifth of the key, C, D, E, F, G. So if I have a low G or low C available, I can play it in the key of C. So I'm going to play C, low G, F, C, G. So it's like having the bass player pedal a G. So I can do the key of G, G, C, D, G, C, G, D. I pedaled the low note. You can pedal the high note. You can have it as duplicated, doubled. Here, let me switch with Kelly. One last thing here. Ready? So I'll play that same progression if I remember what I did. G, I'll do it in G. What's that?
You could have played on the play along with yourself on the playback of the.
Yeah. Oh, I could have. Yeah, the delay. Yeah. So triads, there's a lot in them. They're more than just a chord. They're for single notes, intervals. Sometimes only one note moves in a chord, A minor, F, C, A minor, right? They share notes, voice leading, lots of concepts in here. Next week, where do we go to? Oh, there's the end. Ending. Workshop is about triad. So, any questions or anything, just email Kelly or back. There you go. Triad. That was today. Next week is.
No, you can't hear it. It's too loud. The music is too loud.
Oh, it is too loud? Yeah, voiceover music. Always forget that. All right, yeah. Next week we're going to do contemporary triads. We'll do diminished and augmented. I didn't cover those, but they'll actually be really easy to do. They're just based off of your majors and minors. All right, that'll be next week. We'll do contemporary triads, and we'll briefly touch on diminished and augmented triads, which are pretty rare. Probably you've never played a diminished triad yet on your ukulele.
No?
No, you'll find out why next week. So you got to tune in next week. That's like
Do I want to play?
Lost in Space cliffhanger.
Should I be playing?
So you've got to, what you think you're playing a diminished chord, you're playing diminished sevenths. There, I just gave the cliffhanger away. Darn, how do you like that? But contemporary triads, sus, out C, ooh, sus, adds, 4-part triads, sevenths, major sevenths, minor sevenths. There's a lot here. The triads are probably the most powerful device that you can use on the instrument. Allows me to like play songs I don't even know.
All right. Well.
All right. There you go.
Thanks
We're done.
tuning
Thanks.
in.
Yep.
Have a good weekend, and we'll see you Wednesday night.
Oh, there was audio there.